A robbery at the Olympics. A Canadian man finally gets a medal. Usain Bolt does it again, but now is being compared to Michael Phelps. Now, who's greater? Does every country swim, or does every country run? Is that what this gets broken down to? This is BSS Sports.
This is BSS Sports.
Fires to the end zone. It's caught. It's Greg Lewis. Touchdown.
Brooks with one, lets it fly at the horn. It's gone.
Here's Crosby with a burst of speed up the middle. Gets open and scores.
A grand slam for A-Rod.
Pure genius from David Beckham.
And it's in. Thierry Henry with a bullet.
Touchdown. With Thomas Brooks, Steve Schill, and Trevor Struthers, only on 91X.
Welcome to another edition of BSS Sports. I'm your host, Steven Schill, with my counterpart, T-Dog, Trevor to the Struthers. Thomas is away again. One day he'll be back, but not this day. Andre De Grasse, the Canadian sprinter. New relationship between Bolt and the Canadian, it seems. Now, Bolt wins gold. Gatlin comes second. A lot of controversy about him formerly using steroids. And then the Canadian, Andre De Grasse, coming in third. Trevor, were you able to watch the semifinal, the three heats coming up to this one?
I definitely paid attention to De Grasse's semifinal. I think I had hold him on the tube at the time, but so I pretty much had the chance to watch everything that happened last night with the track.
Well, it seemed like there was a weird relationship that I wasn't expecting to happen between Bolt and De Grasse. Did you think that was going to happen?
I didn't know that they had some sort of friendship going on. It dates back to January, I think, according to De Grasse and what he said last night. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see though, because it's like Usain Bolt's this guy that we put on this pedestal as maybe the greatest summer Olympian, definitely of this generation, and Andre De Grasse, a Canadian, and seems like he's that next one, at least according to Usain Bolt.
It's also kind of weird the amount of hate that Gatlin got, the U.S. Representative. I get that he had, the steroids issue in the past, and it's kind of along the same lines as everybody right now with the steroid era, but do you think they should be getting a pass kind of thing since they're supposedly clean, or is it, you've screwed up, everybody knows, so we're going to harp on you now?
Well, this was the guy that got like an 8-year ban in 2006, which ended up being reduced to half that, 4 years. But, this is a guy that, he's had a couple run-ins with performance-enhancing situations, and I don't know too many people who actually do like this guy. It seems like Usain Bolt doesn't really like this guy. I don't blame him. Obviously, it seems like Usain Bolt does this stuff completely clean. That's obviously the hope with how fantastic he's been. But, track and field is a sport where we don't see too much performance enhancing nowadays. Obviously we had the Ben Johnson situation back in like the 80s here in Canada, but we haven't had to deal with that really at all recently, except for this guy, it seems like, when it comes to performance enhancing drugs in track and field. Obviously there's the argument if everybody's doing it, and you hear this, with baseball, at least, not that long ago with Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds, if everybody's doing it, what's wrong with doing it? But it seems like in track and field, assuming that the testing that they're doing for this is legit, and I feel like the Olympics testing would be pretty legit, and everybody has to go through that to perform in the Olympics, it's not, not everybody's doing it, it's just him, and so, shame on him.
Now, another thing that was kind of odd about Rio, and it was part of the build-up with the complaints that everybody had about it being in Rio. Now, it's been confirmed that 4 people have been robbed, or victims of robbery. The thieves were people who posted as police officers, and somehow they stopped the taxi, asked for all their personal belongings, and of course money, and then got away. Everybody's safe from this. But, without sounding sorry for the people or possibly coming across the wrong way, if this is the only bad thing that comes out of Rio is 4 people being robbed with no injury and just having to, give some people money, that's pretty good, judging at least by the way that they brought it up about how there was going to be all these issues going on in Rio. Is it good that this is the only thing that's happened, or do you think there's more things that have happened? Sorry, not good, but is it acceptable that these are the only things that have happened with what's been kind of highlighted of the things that could go wrong here?
Yeah, from what we heard, pretty much. I mean, this was kind of interesting because I think the first report about this whole issue, and it involved Ryan Lochte of the American swim team, who has a bit of a following, and I think he had his own reality show for a bit after an Olympic Games. I can't remember if it was like 2008 or whatever, but so he has a bit of his own following, and apparently it was his mom that said that he was robbed or something like that. Him and I think it was three other American swimmers. But then after that, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, came out and said that this didn't happen. But then the U.S. Olympic Committee came out and said, yes, this did happen. And so there was a bunch of conflicting reports. I guess it sounds like, I mean, obviously, in terms of the reports that I just said, it's 2-1 in favor of it happening. So, but
it seems like there's a lot of reports as well coming out that saying the IOC is covering certain things up, which everything you could say is corrupt in sports, but it's kind of, if at this point I think everybody believes that this robbery happened, but if the IOC's, kind of ballsy enough to say, hey, you know what, this didn't happen, trying to cover it up, yeah, it's throwing a little shade on everything.
Yeah, they're not exactly the most trustworthy committee in the world. I think that's safe to say. Obviously, they want this to look like the Olympics have gone off great, especially because of the criticism they got for this, the ultimate decision to have them in Rio. So maybe that has something to do with it. I feel like this might happen. Obviously something like this can happen at every single Olympic Games. There's just the opportunity. In this case here, it happened to some athletes. I don't know if if you're if that was targeted on purpose or if that was just by coincidence that it was athletes, because apparently they were in this taxi. But obviously when it happens to athletes, it's probably going to end up getting out, and that's what happened here. I wouldn't be surprised if robberies happened all the time, and unfortunately, at every Olympic Games.
Now switching over to baseball, going down to Miami, the big man Giancarlo Stanton is apparently out for the rest of the year. And of course now people speculate that A-Rod may make an appearance in the Miami lineup in the days to come. Now Alex Rodriguez has something planned with the Yankees to join their front office, but depending on the outline of that contract, etc., if that's actually going to happen or if that was just reports, he could theoretically still play. Why go to the Marlins? I don't really know, unless they're just comparing the batting between Giancarlo Stanton and Rodriguez, because I don't think the field play is anywhere close. Because last year Alex Rodriguez hit 33 home runs. However, this year in the few games that he did play, he was batting around 200, so it wouldn't make a huge difference to Miami. Maybe a bit of a ticket sell to try to get people to come out, because Miami's crowd's not been the greatest for baseball. Trevor, do you think this is a stupid thing if A-Rod goes to Miami?
Well, I mean, it's a calculated risk to a point. I mean, obviously, if they go and get Alex Rodriguez, he's going to be a bench player. The whole Giancarlo Stanton thing is what makes this intrigue. You lose the power that you have in Stanton, and obviously with Rodriguez, he's not going to get nearly the at-bats that Stanton would, and he's not nearly as good as Stanton could be, even though Stanton, I think, had a career-low batting average this year, but it wasn't as bad as A-Rod's this year. But A-Rod does have some pop and could come up hitting for a pitcher, and that's probably solely what he's going to do. He's obviously can't play the outfield. He probably wouldn't play third base. It is a little intriguing. A fun little fact about Rodriguez is that he wasn't born in the Bronx, but he was born in New York City. He got to play for the Yankees for a while, and his family actually at one point moved to Miami, and he grew up in Miami, Florida. So maybe he wants to play for Miami, because I don't know if he's dreamed about it. Apparently he was a Mets fan growing up, but there is some intrigue there maybe for him to want to go to Miami, because he is he's familiar with Miami, and I mean, who wouldn't want to live in Miami? I mean, Miami is a fantastic place. At least it seems like from up here in Canada, that's a fantastic place.
Except for this heat wave, I don't know if that's 24/7 down there. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of it.
Well, I feel like if it's always hot, eventually you get used to it. Up here in Canada, we have to deal with a little bit back and forth. But, the intrigue, I think, to a point would be there. I think this is the only team that has interest in him, and it seems like it's more and more serious as we found out about Stanton. And, yeah, Stanton's done for the year. If I'm the Marlins, you might as well take a shot at it. I don't see why not. This is a team that's battling for a playoff spot. They're right in the mix of the wild card right now, and wouldn't necessarily rule out the division with the Nationals leading that division right now. So I'd say go for it. I mean, when was the last time the Marlins were in the playoffs?
Now, speaking of the Nationals, Jonathan Papelbon, best known as the ace for the Red Sox, the closer for them. Blue Jays fans don't like them. Joined the Washington Nationals this year, was supposed to be their cherry on top. But the past 2 months, he had an earned run average over 6. He's gotten into a fist fight with Bryce Harper, and has since been informed that he has been released, cut, slashed, yesterday's news from the organization, so he's now a free agent. It's kind of weird to think that Jonathan Papelbon has went from this kind of ace player to kind of nothing at all in a very short time span. Supposed to be not necessarily the savior, but the one to take the Nationals to the finals and win a World Series. That hasn't happened, but I think the biggest thing is getting into a fight with Bryce Harper, who is one of the best players in all of baseball, and as a pitcher who's not doing good, yelling at the best player arguably in the league, I feel is just asking for something bad to happen to you. But, I mean, Jonathan Papelbon, sure you have the, records, whatever the heck you want to say, and say, oh yeah, man, I was good, back in the day, striking everybody out. Washington's got to do something different, but, they decided to shake things up with Papelbon. As you said, they're leading their conference. Now, do you think they're going to go to the World Series without Papelbon?
Well, Papelbon's not exactly helping them, and from far away, because I'm nowhere near the clubhouse, it seems like he's a bit of a cancer in there, or at least he was. He's no longer there now. This is a guy that when he was good had an ERA around 185 to 234, somewhere in there roughly. And over the last couple of years, it was he had an ERA with the Nationals anyways last year of 3, and an ERA to this point this year of 437. So he just hasn't been very good, and that's the bottom line. And it wasn't just that he got in a fight with the franchise player Bryce Harper; it's the fact that he had his hands around his throat as well. So obviously, the franchise player's throat, you're asking to be released at that point. And the fact that he's been around for almost a calendar year since then is just the Nationals showing that they kind of needed him around. And now they're at the point where it's like, you know what, you're not very good anymore, we'll let you go. The Nationals, Drew Storen hasn't had a very good year, but the Nationals gave up Drew Storen last year, and so they were a little thinner in the bullpen than they were at this point last year. So, I think Papelbon was a guy that they had to rely on. And eventually they just had enough. I don't know how their bullpen stacks out now, but it'll be interesting moving forward. And like I said, Miami, they still have a shot at this division depending on how the Nationals play here on out.
Now, back to the Blue Jays. They decided to change their ticket pricing today. It's kind of a weird thing. And the way they describe it is trying to match the value of games. So for season ticket holders overall, you're going to be kind of confused, but I think you're paying a wee bit more. But for games like Opening Day and Canada Day, if you buy a flex pack, and if you have those games in your flex pack, then your overall price will be up. And I think they're kind of trying to do it so like in the NBA when, let's say, you're facing Cleveland. Let's say Cleveland's coming to Toronto. You're going to pay more for seeing Cleveland take on Toronto than, let's say, the Orlando Magic taking on Toronto. So that's what they're kind of doing. Trevor, do you think this is a good move by the Blue Jays, even though it basically starts out by saying, hey, if you're buying tickets, you're probably going to be paying 13% more?
I've only had a little opportunity to actually look at this, but by the way I'm looking at it, it seems like with up to this year, they have had prices that pretty much go, you have your normal ticket prices pretty much for games that are against teams not in the division, not rivals, that kind of thing. And then you have your ticket prices for, the Yankees, the Red Sox, maybe the Rangers now because of the rivalry that they seem to have brewing now. So you have that, and I feel like this is just kind of widening that scale. So, if it's I'm trying to think of a horrible team, if it's the Minnesota Twins coming in for a series, then you might pay less than your average normal ticket price because they have I think it's 4 different scales of ticket pricing now, ranging from A to D, I think. So obviously the Red Sox, Yankees would be A ticket pricing, and then Minnesota would be D ticket pricing. So Yeah, I mean, and I think somewhere in the middle would be that normal ticket price. So I think this is a good move. Honestly, I mean, I haven't been able to go to a game yet this year because ticket prices have gone up. Obviously, I mean, if you have success, raise ticket prices. It's right around where the Cubs ticket prices are. Now, this isn't Wrigley Field, but they pretty much did the same thing last year. So, I mean, hey, if the building keeps selling like it is right now, keep the ticket prices where they are. Maybe even raise it some. I mean, it's all about doing good business, and ultimately, if this organization is able to bring in as much money as it can, maybe they can go out and sign some big name free agent. Who really knows?
Maybe A-Rod will come out of retirement and become a Blue Jay. Man,
Oh,
that
hell
would be
no.
that would
Oh,
be
hell no.
quite the show. Finally, Tim Tebow is switching to baseball, and the Yankee great Gary Sheffield is planning on helping him out. We'll see how that goes. That's it for this episode of BSS Sports. For Steven Schill and Trevor Struthers, we'll catch you on the flip side, but make sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook, archiving on YouTube at BSS Productions. We'll catch you